Carl, the school system and education today are, as usual, great subjects of controversy. Your person-centered approach has had a great deal of influence in education in certain respects. What is your approach to education and teaching, and what do you think some of the things we ought to know, those of us who are teachers today, to try to make the experience more effective?
Well, I'd like to answer that first as sort of a fantasy, because if, for example, a teacher in high school or junior high school wants to use this approach in his or her classroom, it's difficult at that time. The kids have been disciplined, spoon-fed, given no responsibility, and it's hard for them to face the fact of being self-directing and responsible. So my fantasy is if we would start out in first grade with this kind of an approach where students were given a good deal of responsibility for choosing what they wanted to do and taking the consequences of that within safety limits, and where the teachers' major responsibilities would be to provide loads of resources, books, drawing materials, everything, resources of people too. And then if that were carried on up through the grades, you would come out with responsible learners who are excited about learning. And that would make, then it would be a consistent approach all the way through, and I think you would get the same, well, I know you would get the same kind of result that we do in therapy. You'd get people taking interesting, risky steps that were very important to them and that led them into new paths of learning. As it is now, especially today with all the stress on back to the basics, not realizing that the most basic thing of all is the development of the person, it's tough for a teacher to come into a classroom and try to revolutionize the whole situation. And I've known teachers who've lost their jobs because they've tried it. But the main thing still would be the creation of a psychological climate involving certain conditions and the providing of lots of resources for learning, and then facilitating the process that would go on.
Why do you think we don't do this?
It seems to me that basically we do not do it because very few people believe in democracy. That's one aspect of it. Very few people believe that the individual can be trusted in any basic way. Instead, our whole setup in school, in industry, in the military is set up on the notion that don't trust anybody. Supervise them to the nth degree, examine them, test them. And we have no way of calculating the loss that that entails, because students lose their curiosity. The 5-year-old, before he goes to school, is just bursting with curiosity. He can't learn fast enough. He wants to know everything about everything. But give him 2 years in school, and that's been squashed down a good deal. And by the time he gets to junior high, learning, what's that? You get away from it if possible. You don't want to go to school. That's not the in thing. We've turned them off from creative learning.
I think it has a lot to do with rigidity. Rigidity.
Mm-hmm.
My kid at 6th grade would stay until 5 o'clock playing with computers because he was so interested. In junior high, because he had to follow a certain structure that was not comfortable. And his teacher even told me, those kids come here thinking that computer is fun, instead of having to really learn how to deal with a computer. So he lost his interest in computer, had terrible grades, and I think that kind of rigidity, it's really, it's even angry when I think about it.
That's a prize example of a teacher thinking learning can't be fun. It's got to be dull and boring and step-by-step logical, whereas real learning is always fun, always exciting.